Hey skiers, I'm Jeff from skiessentials.com.
And I'm Bob. How's it going?
Bob and I are here today to do a 2025 powder ski comparison, the big skis.
Yeah, this is the ones that people are like, those look like water skis on your feet.
Yeah.
Like, not far off.
It's a polarizing category
Yeah.
of skis, whether people love it or think that they are useless.
Right.
But I'm here to say that they are certainly not useless because I've used many of them and they're fantastic.
Yeah, it's a similar
I think I've skied just about everything up here, actually.
just similar conversation to the narrow front side skis,
Yeah.
where it's like, well, you got to be in a pretty specific situation.
Yeah.
And even though people will swear to all things holy that the bent 120 is their favorite carving ski of all time, like I'm not here to tell anyone that they're wrong, but like these certainly operate better in their intended environment.
Yeah. I just misspoke a little bit. I've never skied that mono ski.
Yeah, maybe this year.
We can talk about it when we get there. So we've got 15 skis up here, plus a mono ski, because we thought that would be fun, because it's the widest.
Yeah.
There are some skis that I wish we had up here that we don't. So kind of the first one that comes to mind for me is we don't have anything from Line, which is a little bit of a bummer. They've got Bacon 115 and Bacon 121, I think. I might be misspeaking a little bit there.
And we've had a Pescado up here in the past.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, like, I think of Line as a manufacturer that makes some really good skis for powder, and they always have. So, kind of a bummer that we don't have representation there. We did talk about the Bacon 108 in the free ride video.
Yeah.
Most of what we said there could be applied to powder as
Right.
well,
7 wider.
or whatever the widest one is.
Right.
Yeah, Tom Wallish's kind of signature powder ski. The other one that is new for 2025 that we don't have up here that comes to mind for me is the K2 Reckoner 124. So they kind of like boosted the widest Reckoner. We do have Reckoner representation.
Yeah.
So at least we've got that going for us.
Yeah.
But thought we would get out ahead of it a little bit. You know, we try and include as many things as possible on these comparison walls, but sometimes it's just not in the cards,
Yep.
or rather not in the building.
Not in the building.
That would be more literal. So Bob, I'll get us started. I'll give you one to throw on the scale
Sure.
for me. This is the Nordica Unleashed 114. It is the widest Unleashed ski. It's also the widest ski that Nordica makes, which I thought was an interesting way to start this conversation, because on this wall, it's one of the narrower skis,
Right.
which is just kind of interesting to think about as like a representation of Nordica as a company and as a manufacturer. They're not making like an ultra surfy 120 plus ski.
Right.
This is as wide as you're going to get. This is your Nordica powder ski. And kind of along those lines, it is more robust. It's more precise. It's a little bit more of a ski, for lack of a better term. You know, it's giving you a lot of feedback. And that can be a good thing or a bad thing, depending on how you ski. Lightweight wood core in these skis, so it's actually a little bit lighter than the 108, which I think is very interesting.
Doesn't feel like that on your feet.
I agree.
What I've noticed.
And we'll get to that.
Yeah.
And then we've got that terrain-specific metal in these skis, so that's used across the board in Unleashed as well as Santa Ana, so full-width metal up here, and then it kind of tapers into the middle of the ski, and then goes full-width again. We've talked about terrain-specific metal several times. 2,100 grams, which might sound heavy, but like...
We'll see heavier.
Yeah, some of these skis are pretty impressively light, actually, but we certainly will see heavier.
That one's actually like smack in the middle.
Yeah, that's what, but in,
Of this wall.
in an all-mountain comparison, 2,100 sounds super
Very
heavy.
heavy, yeah.
So, take that with a grain of salt. And then, I think the flex pattern in these skis is pretty much exactly on par with Unleashed 98 and Unleashed 108.
Yeah.
Even though, like, the core is slightly different, the way that they flex, it's consistent, it's round, but it's not soft. I would not call this a soft flexing ski.
No, I think you're spot on. The consistent and round really characterize
Yeah.
the flex of that.
Yep. And then shape is an important thing in this conversation, in this comparison in general. And this ski does have rocker. You know, that's kind of where the tip rocker starts, and that's where the tail rocker starts about. But it's not that much rocker compared to some things that we'll look at. And there's not much taper. There's some, you know, but I would say like even less than you see in an Enforcer shape.
Yeah.
Unleashed kind of have a little bit more extended side cut. And then blanking on turn radius, I think it's 20.4. I was going to say 19.4. So it's pretty interesting ski. It's strong, it's stable, it's pretty darn powerful for a ski that's 114 underfoot. So if you like skiing fast and aggressively and kind of taking like direct lines through deep snow, through choppy snow, broken snow, you'll really like it. If you're looking for a ski that's going to feel like ultra quick and agile and like surfy, I don't know that it has that characteristic.
No, and it's interesting because it is the narrowest ski here, yet it is also not as quick or as agile as some other skis on this wall when you get wider.
Yeah.
Like it just has a much more traditional feel to it.
It does, and there's like a couple others up here that kind of have more traditional feel to me, but they feel looser also for different reasons. Like this Oblivion 116, which this is the 2024 graphic, if anyone's wondering. That ski feels like traditional too, but it has a 30-something meter turn radius, which changes its characteristic in deep snow a lot. So yeah, Unleashed 114 is awesome. I think it's just, it's one of those things where you have to kind of, it's almost like a Enforcer Pro. Remember the 115 underfoot Enforcer Pro? It's not quite that powerful. You know, that ski had 2 sheets of metal, or like an Enforcer 110 had 2 sheets of metal. But it's like, I think it's a good place to like kind of put your brain of like power and stability and speed. Some of you might be listening to me and thinking like I own an Unleashed 114 and I find it very playful, and I do think that it's like skier ability dependent too. Like we've had people on this ski over the years that make it look very playful, but those skiers can also go take like what's the M Pro 108, like the factory team freeride Dynastar, and they can make that look playful too. So it's like they have the skill level that is beyond some of us.
Yeah, the thing that really sets that apart is really that nearly full metal layer.
Yeah.
Like once we get past that atomic there, we're not going to discuss metal again. You know, so it's the fact that has the most really provides that damp feeling to that. And we talk about Unleashed as being uncommonly good carvers for twin tips, and that follows through to the 114
this thing
as well.
rips carves, which is a silly thing to talk about at 114 underfoot, but it does.
It does.
And yeah, you're right. Like the metal laminate, to me, it's the metal laminate combined. Like the fact that there's full width metal right here and not much taper.
Yeah.
Like you're really getting a pretty engaging ski, which again can be a good thing or it can be a bad thing depending on what you're looking for. You know, it's like the antithesis to a Reckoner 124.
Right.
If we were to have that ski up here. And even like, you know, these are only QST X and this is only 4 millimeters difference in width, but like a world of difference in how they ski.
Yeah.
So good one to start with because it's kind of interesting to go in kind of tangents from there. And like this is a really good one to talk about after it.
Yeah, and we will also talk about how I would say this wall has the most pro models of any wall that we do, maybe?
Maybe.
There's quite a few.
Yeah.
This is Carl Fostvet's ski. This is the K2 Reckoner KF. So this is a new one for 2025 and fills kind of that blank that was in the Reckoner line. So we went from 112 to 122 before. So now we're 110, 114 here with the KF. So it kind of fills that void as well as being the pro model ski for Carl Fostvet. and it certainly follows a different construction standpoint than the rest of the Reckoners. So this one gets a Paulownia wood core, and then pretty much any type of additive that K2 has, they put it in here. Yeah. So it is a carbon wrapped core. They use their carbon spectral braid like we see in the other Reckoners, and we'll see in Mindbender here as well, just in a different format. So in the Reckoners, it's a looser weave in the tips and the tails, and then a tighter weave underfoot, just to increase the torsional stiffness there, and to keep the tips and tails more loose and more playful. And then we get their unidirectional flax in here as well. So they're really putting a whole lot of additive material in here in order to create the energy and the pop that a pro skier would want.
Yeah.
And you really just kind of see it whenever you're looking at like K2's website and you see video of Carl on a big mountain face, and it's like, oh, that makes total sense that this would be a pro model ski for big mountains, high speed, slashy turns, very creative and very freestyle oriented skiing. So that's the construction. It does add up in weight. You know, we kind of think about Reckoners as being on the lighter side of the spectrum. This one's at 2,318 grams.
It's kind of like a Reckoner outlier.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's like you definitely feel like there's some substance there.
Yeah.
Although it does have quite a soft flex. And I was kind of playing around here earlier, and one of the things I like to do with these wider twin tips is just push down with one hand. Yeah. And that kind of gives you a good sense of the compression that the ski is going to take. Like if you're landing in snow or making like bigger turns in powder, like how the ski is going to flex. And some of these, like, I want you to try it with your Revolt 114 that you got up next.
Oh, a single hand flex? No.
Yeah, I mean, it's very interesting.
I have to cheat
how
and try and use my elbow.
Yeah, I mean, you can get it to break a little bit, but you know how you can really see the characteristic of a ski come through with that type of flex, especially with something like this that's more of a twin tip shape. That's another way that these things really separate themselves from other skis, and especially your 114 Unleashed that we just showed there, Jeff. Like, this thing has a ton of rocker, monster splay, and then a lot of taper as well.
So that's completely different shaping concepts.
Yeah, totally. Slight camber underfoot, but not a lot. And we also see quite a bit of symmetry in this ski from a shape and a profile perspective. It's a super long tail rocker, similar in the splay and similar in the taper as well. And then numbers-wise too, same thing. I'll get these numbers off the back so I don't mess them up. 137, 114, 134. So only a 3 millimeter drop in tip to tail width. And that's going to add to the symmetrical and creative aspect of this ski. So 23 meters in the 184. You know, with that amount of taper, it really brings out the surfy and slashy nature of this ski. And I'm really looking forward to getting on this upcoming year, and hopefully in a softer snow environment.
It's pretty sweet. And like what I was talking about, how it, like, I think it's a good jumping off point from here, like a good tangent, because they both those skis have like a lot of stability, but then like that, the shape of that ski is so much more progressive and playful. And like nose butters, tail butters, slashy turns, stuff like that. That shape is really going to promote that kind of skiing style.
Yeah. And then that flex, I mean, just pushing down on the ski and getting it to bend.
I don't think we have any Reckoner KF footage.
I know.
But we have like some sweet photos of Matt.
Yeah.
So I'll put those in here, because Matt's like a great, you know, you were talking about how Carl skis and like really fast and aggressively, but playful and creative too. And like, that's kind of like Matt.
Right.
So it's like, and he loved this thing. So it's kind of, it's not surprising that it ended up working really well for him. Yeah,
and it was great to have it at our ski test, you know, for
totally
3 days of fresh snow.
Yeah, this is another one that we had at our ski test, the Revolt 114. This ski is very interesting. I think we've got some footage of, it might be Jose, it could be Noah, Both of those people that I'm referencing are really good skiers. They're very accomplished and very well-respected freeride coaches and former athletes of themselves or current athletes. They can still be
They're
current
still very
athletes.
athletic.
Yeah, they are, exactly. And we've got some footage of them skiing it. And this is another one that, like, they make it look kind of playful. And when you think about the name Revolt, you might think that the ski is pretty playful, but I would kind of steer you the other direction for your assumption and opinion of this ski. It is not very playful, and it doesn't really fall into the Revolt category.
No, it does not fill the gap between the 104 and the 121 here.
Not
in
at
terms
all.
of
Yeah.
a twin tip freestyle powder ski.
It's kind of like one of those skis that could just be named something completely differently, but like Volkl doesn't really have anywhere else to put it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's the construction that keeps it in
Right.
the Revolt world, but the shape is
Right.
monstrously different.
Yeah. So as is true with other Revolt skis, the construction is very simple. It's just poplar and beech, nothing else. There's fiberglass. There's other stuff. There's a base and some edges and stuff like that. But there's no additives in here. There's no metal. There's no carbon, anything like that. We've talked over the years about how much you can control a ski just with a wood core and how you mill it. And like, look how thick it is right there.
Right.
Like, that's wild.
Generally, there's minimal need to make a ski that thick at that portion.
Or, yeah, and like even
Or
up
in the
here
shovel.
in the shovel, it
Yeah.
still stays so thick. So you get a crazy stiff flex pattern. Like, it could be the stiffest ski up here.
It's possible.
Like, yeah, we might have
Yeah.
to revisit it as we keep going forward, but it is very stiff, and it's also more directional. It's also heavy. So 2,470 grams. So
Yeah, that's going to be right up here with the Center Free 118.
one of the heaviest skis that we'll see today, period. And then, yeah, it's like, it's not really a twin tip, which is unique on this wall, for one. It's mostly twin tips up here. And of course, unique in the Revolt category, because the rest, everything else in the Revolt category is 100% a twin tip.
Very much a twin tip.
So plenty of tip rocker up here, which is awesome for a 114 freeride ski. You know, you kind of you don't need it, but it's very helpful for skipping over choppy terrain and stuff like that. And then there is rocker in the tail, but it's like, it's pretty flat back here. You know, there's not much splay, there's not much going on back there, so you get a lot of like stability and support from your tail. You know, like, you're not washing out anywhere, like with that tail, where some of these skis, you can just take the tail and just bend it. So it's kind of more of a big mountain style, ski really fast, down the fall line, freeride world tour-ish style ski than it is a fun, playful powder ski.
Yeah, and even the next Volkl, but there's certainly more that fall on the exact opposite side as that 114 there.
Yeah, so like thinking to my favorite places to ski powder. So Alta's got to be up there, Powder Mountain. It's got maybe just like the cat skiing operation behind Powder Mountain.
Sure.
But, you know, that can work its way onto my list. If I had a really, really good deep powder day at some place like that, or anywhere really, it wouldn't be my first choice.
No, it definitely seems to work better in places that have somewhat like set snowpacks. Like if you think about Alaska or Pacific Northwest, more maritime, like heavier, denser structural snow.
So thinking back to other places that I've lived and skied, so Mammoth, and I'd throw Breckenridge in there too.
Just because of the wind effect.
Wind buffed, exactly. Like Breckenridge gets a ton of that like wind, like buffed and wind scoured snow, and this works really, really well in that those conditions and those situations. And similar is true in like Mammoth, where the snowpack can often be a little bit heavier, and you're not skiing like blower powder, you're skiing something with a little bit more substance. Yeah. So it's an interesting one to have in a powder comparison, because to me it's more of a freeride ski, a wide freeride ski, than it is like a true pure powder ski.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's interesting how that Volkl plays off the next Volkl, how a company can have two 114s and have them be
two
very different.
114s that both aren't twin tips, that are both in this category with like realistically similar shapes.
Yeah.
But they feel so much different.
Yeah. No, this Blaze 114 is quite different than that Revolt on a number of different levels. First and foremost, the weight, as we'll get to here. It's not Blaze light when we're thinking about a touring ski.
I mean, they're just these
2,000
so
grams.
wide.
So wide, 150 something in the shovel here, 154. I think this is probably one of the widest shovels on this wall. And it really makes the ski feel like it's going to stay right up and out of the snow. I had this on my feet day 3 of the ski test. Again, not on camera, unfortunately.
Mine, I skied it day 3 of the ski test on camera.
Yeah.
So you can watch me ski it while Bob explains
Nice.
what it feels like.
But my first inclination is right in the woods, especially
Yeah.
when it was a bit more wind affected. And normally if a ski is of a lighter nature, it's not going to handle the wind-affected snow quite as well, but I didn't find that to be the case with this. And similar conversation we can have with the K2 116.
I agree.
Where in the woods you need the mobility and the agility. You're not going to get the same result with the Revolt 114 in those categories. Yeah, it's going to go through a wind drift easier than a Blaze or a Mindbender, but around here at least, where turns are tighter and trees are closer, you want some mobility.
Yeah.
So that's where the Blaze really comes in handy. It is built with their hybrid multi-layer wood core. We also get PET strips, so recycled plastic is used in the core of this ski. Works fine.
Totally.
It's not like there's a huge downtick or any that I could tell.
No, I don't think so
from
either.
incorporating that plastic into the center of the ski and reducing the carbon footprint. Like, it all seems good to me. We also get their suspension tips and tails, so that nice rubberized material. And then there is a metal sheet underfoot. It is not full width like the new Blaze 104 and 94. This is the older, more of a binding retention layer than a full structural one, kind of what we see in the new 104 and 94. So same construction as what we saw last year when the ski came out, just a different top sheet. And then the other big story here is Volkl's 3D turn radius. So they really do a nice job of incorporating 3 different turn shapes into the ski, longer in the tips and tails, and then shorter underfoot. I don't think yours states it, but I believe it's 20 throughout.
Yeah, why doesn't it state it?
Because
It's a very strange thing.
the 121 doesn't either, and my theory is that because the three dimensions are so close, it doesn't matter as much. These are different, so I think it's 30, 39, 18, 29. So you can tighten it up and make nice short energetic carved turns in the front. You can also let it run and be more drifty and playful with it out of the tips and tails. And we've kind of keyed in on this a lot with kind of new modern Volkl technology, but very flat profiles. You won't see a ski with less camber underfoot than I think when we get to the Candide over there. Yeah, I'm going to stick by that statement. But yeah, very flat overall profile and then long and low rocker. So that's giving the ski a very smooth characteristic, and it allows you to really hook into those 3 different turn shapes with greater ease. If there was more camber, it's harder to get into that central radius and make those shorter turns. But certainly a more directional tail, not a ton of rocker or splay back here. I think part of that is a nod to the touring capabilities. So we do get the skin notch back here in the tail. And just any time that your tail is flatter, it gives you better skin adhesion to the snow. So it's not rising out with a big fat twin tip or anything like that. And I think it makes sense. They're keeping that consistent throughout the Blaze line. But really fun. I think that around here in the trees, it worked great.
Yeah.
And then when you pop out on the trail, you get the benefits of that directional shape and kind of Volkl's technology and their ability to make a precise and engaging ski for on-trail performance.
Yeah, I'm always impressed by how much I enjoy it
Yeah.
because on paper, I'm not supposed to. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's not like a twin tip.
It's not a twin
big
tip.
floppy
Yeah.
twin tip powder ski. It's a directional ski, but it just like it captures so much of what I love to do in deep snow.
Yeah.
Of like just fun little surfy turns everywhere, and yeah, it's super easy to release the tail edge even in really deep snow, and it just gives you like a nice set of tools for like where we live.
Right.
And I think that could be reapplied to just about anywhere. I think like sure there's a lack of like stability in a Blaze. That's probably like the biggest downside.
Yeah, if you're looking down that bowl in Mammoth
And you want to go as
and
fast
you want to
as
go
you
as
can,
fast as you can,
yeah,
then
just
stay with the Revolt.
Really, any of these first three skis
Yeah.
is going to do that way better, and this one, and this one.
Yeah.
So, yeah, not really like your Charger powder ski.
Yeah.
It's a technical,
Yeah.
great for like really tight, techie zones.
Nice
tight
energy.
shoots. Yeah.
Yeah, really good energy. You get good feedback.
Yeah.
And because it's got that directional tail, it's hard to do
Your test.
my
Bob's
one-hand compression
flex
test. Yeah.
And then next ski up here, this is a new one for 2025. This is the Atomic Maverick 115 CTI. Unfortunately, we only have this one with the demo plate on it, so it's going to throw off our weight figures just a little bit. Poplar and ash wood core in these skis, and then we get the CTI, so a combination of both Titanal and carbon. It's not a full sheet of Titanal. I do believe the carbon stringers run just about full length longitudinally. If not full, then awfully close. The Horizon Tech might not.
Might get in the way.
Might get in the way. But really fun ski. 2,285 grams. We'll say minus 200.
I think the plates are about 200.
I
yeah.
agree. So we'll call it 2,050. And if I'm way off, then maybe I'll put it on the screen. I got to ski these out in Utah this past season alongside Darren Ralphs, who was instrumental in their development. This ski basically shares the same exact recipe as the new Maverick 105 CTI. Certainly don't want to take anything away from this ski, but it's a lot.
Yeah.
Kind of in a good way. You know, it's not heavy, but there aren't too many situations where I feel like you need this over a Maverick 105 CTI or a Bent 120. So with the existence of those two skis, I personally would have a hard time landing on this, which made me feel a lot better when Darren Ralphs basically described it as his Alaska ski.
Right.
I was like, yeah, that's the situation where I would use it. And it's kind of interesting because it's not the biggest ski up here. It's not the stiffest or the heaviest or like any of those things. But I think when you add up just everything about it and how it skis, it's best in those big, open, high-speed zones. So really cool. It's not stiff. You know, I think that might be like surprising to some people after all the things that I just said, but definitely something about it when you ski it. It feels like there's a lot going on your feet. Again, not in a bad way. It's just, yeah, it's like whether you need it or not. Quite a lot of tip rocker up here. There is a good amount of camber underfoot, which is nice. And then a decent amount of tail rocker back here too, but definitely less than the tip rocker. I think it's super helpful that it has an 18-meter turn radius, because if it was super straight, then it would just kind of like, it would just feel like it wanted to go straighter than you might want. And I do love the new Horizon Tech. So this is their latest version of Horizon Tech. A little longer, like it kind of extends further down into the ski, the beveled sections. And then the wood goes a little bit further up through the Horizon Tech than it used to. So a little bit more consistency up here, less of a hinge point than it might have. But Yeah, super fun. I mean, I had a blast skiing it. It just, it's directional and it's huge. And when I get this big, I want more rise behind me, just because then I feel like there's more things I can do with it. Just feel a little bit more creative, a little bit more dynamic. But you haven't skied this, have you?
I haven't been on that one yet, no.
I would venture a guess that you might feel the opposite. You're bigger than me, having like a little bit more of a supportive tail I think might be helpful. But I would also venture a guess that you wouldn't necessarily feel that way in stow.
I also really like the bent Chetler 120.
Well, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
So like thinking about us here in stow, like 100% I would rather take a Maverick 105 or a bent 120 on a powder day at stow. Like, I think they're both more useful. They're a little bit more maneuverable in different ways. The 105 is quicker edge to edge, and the bent 120 is just slarvier, smearier, and you can use those things to your advantage in different ways.
Yeah.
I think it just really likes open terrain. Like, every time I skied it, I just wanted to go faster and faster and faster, and like couldn't find a slope that was steep enough that then it felt appropriate. You know what I mean?
Well, you got to get out of Powder Mountain and go somewhere with some pitch.
Yeah, it was like towards the end of the day. Powder Mountain also doesn't have that much pitch.
Right. Yeah, you got to bring that thing to Snowbird or something.
Yeah, no, I agree. It would be a blast at Snowbird. Or what's the run at Alta that's just like straight off the front?
The Alps, the High Rustler there.
Is it High Rustler?
Yeah.
Like, I would love to ski that kind of like as fast as I can on this.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are great points. At Powder Mountain, it was kind of just like, okay.
Right. Maybe you want the playfulness built into your ski.
Yeah, exactly.
120.
Yeah, just more useful.
Yeah.
It allows you to do more things. But yeah, if you're looking for a big open space charger, and kudos to Atomic for achieving that and not having a crazy heavy ski. We're
Right.
like 400 grams lighter than we were seeing in Reckoner KF and Revolt 114.
Yeah, totally.
So like commendable and I think impressive.
Yeah, I think we're moving the needle a little bit towards the playful side of the spectrum here with this Armada ARV 116 JJUL.
Quite a name, I love it.
Quite a name, and actually like no words in the name, just letters and numbers, which I always find hilarious.
Yeah, that is a good one.
But this is part of their Zero collection, and it does have kind of, it's a little bit more standalone than the other skis in the ARV line. It is built with a Karuba wood core, and that's about it. Really where they're taking their liberties is in the stiffness of the utilization of that core and in the shaping. And when we get to the Whitewalker 116 here, there are a lot of similarities from kind of a footprint and a shape standpoint, but definitely some differences in terms of how they flex, and obviously a difference in the tip shape. This ski here, Jeff, is the one that really spurred my inspiration to do one-handed flexes.
Oh yeah, that one's super fun to play with.
Because it just goes.
Yeah.
So
I was in here by myself earlier too, doing some just flexing, and when I pick up a ski off the wall and feel that weight and that flex, my eyes light up.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my God, that's so awesome.
Yeah, and for me, it's kind of a non-starter.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I can just picture myself going right over the handlebars almost instantly.
Yeah.
So yeah, different skis for different people, and
Totally.
that's what it's all about. This is 1,831 grams. That's going to be right there with the lightest of the skis on the wall up here. And again, it's about a 500-gram difference from the Revolt 114 over there, which is not insignificant. It just has that lighter weight feel and that more flexible nature. It does have Armada Smear Tech in the tips and the tails. So that's kind of their answer to your Horizon Tech there, where they're beveling the sides of the ski here to make for a surfier and smearier, almost a convex shape. I mean, it's you brought up line earlier. that used their convex shape in like the Bacon series over the years. This is close. This is kind of Armada's version of that, without touching the actual base. That's still pretty flat. But 75 AR-75 sidewalls, we do get a step down here. So it is a little bit more grippy underfoot, but still very much a multi-directional and creative and playful ski. You know, that flex really brings it into a different category. And I like how they align the movement from sidewall to cap with the rocker.
Yeah.
To me, that makes sense when you're talking about wider freestyle-oriented skis.
Armada has always done that really well.
Yeah.
Just like you look at the skis and it just makes sense.
Right. It's not an accident that the rocker starts where the sidewall turns to full cap. So nice freestyle-oriented, freestyle-based rocker profile and taper shape, and really emphasizes the creativity that skiers will use. You had mentioned butters and wheelies and other types of creative ways to go down the hill. I think that this ski embodies that almost more than anything else here on the wall, especially at an easier entry point. You know, this is not, you don't need to be an expert skier or an aggressive skier to use this. This is a great option for someone who's looking for that lighter weight, more flexible, easier to use powder ski. Like maybe this is your first foray into powder ski purchasing.
Yeah.
This is not offensive or intrusive at all.
It could, well, it's a cool ski because it could be like your first powder ski, or you could be doing like double cork 10s in the backcountry. Because like that's like ideal backcountry jump ski.
Yeah.
At that weight, sure you might want a little bit more stability on landings, but I personally would be willing to trade a few 100 grams or like I would trade supportiveness on landing for 300 grams lighter, 400 grams lighter than something else. Like landing in powder is hard. You kind of have to do it perfectly anyways. The ski doesn't really help too much.
It's interesting because this is the one that is more supportive, but it is not heavier.
Yeah.
So it's pretty cool how Armada made two kind of similar skis with different characteristics like that.
Yeah, totally.
18 meter turn radius here in the 185, and identical dimensions to the Whitewalker 116 as well. Oh, I got those on the wrong side. You got to put them, you have to ski them that way so that it makes a 0.
I don't have to do anything, Bob.
You're going to look silly with your zeros going the other way then.
What would it be? Like a, now it's like a kind of a butterfly.
Maybe you could draw your own butterfly head and body in there.
So you just got to get creative. Is this the same? Do you have to ski it with the face together? I mean, this is an old graphic, so it doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
So this is the Oblivion 116. Like I said at the beginning, this is the 2024 graphic. We do have a new graphic for 2025, but the ski itself remains the same. This is Cole Richardson's pro model. Bob, you talked about having a lot of pro models up here earlier. Phenomenal skier. This ski I think is very interesting. It's a poplar wood core, and then we also get some of that recycled bottle technology, Bob, that you talked about back here with the Blaze 114. Kudos to manufacturers for their environmental practices. And then we get 2 sheets of carbon too. So it's pretty interesting. It's only 2,050 grams. It's not crazy stiff.
No, but
I'd say it's like it's noticeably stiffer underfoot than the tips and tails. So
I noticed that it was difficult to compress.
The tip is stiffer than the tail too, quite substantially. The interesting thing about this ski is it's like basically straight.
As straight as skis get without being downhill or super G skis.
Yeah, that doesn't really display too much, but it's a 30 meter turn radius. It's actually more than that.
30.8 or 30.3 or something like
I
that.
don't think they listed on here. They probably don't want to scare people when they pick it up on a wall.
Nothing scary about that.
No, it's not. I think it's visually intimidating when you read it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a 30-point-something meter turn radius. We're going to talk about turn shapes quite a bit, I think, over the next, like, to me specifically, the next kind of like 5 or 6 skis, and the bent too, I suppose. Really, the rest of the time we'll talk quite a lot about turn shapes. Some skis up here can make very like round, sort of like porpoising turns in powder. That DPS that we'll look at is probably the best for people that like to ski in like somewhat more of a, you know, traditional sense.
Right.
Like
When you look at some, like when people take pictures of their turns and it's like the perfect
Yeah.
and consistent S shape all
yeah,
the way down.
you're made like this cadence, like
Yeah.
these are my powder turns, like DPS is going to be great.
Yeah.
This ski goes straight and then sideways and then straight and then sideways and then straight and then sideways. And for some people, they like, I know it because I see it in comments on social media all the time, but some people like don't even think about that as skiing. And whether whether you like it or not, I'm here to tell you that like a huge portion of the younger skiing market loves to ski that way.
Yeah.
That white ski behind you, Bob, when you think about Candide, I think you can point to Candide as a huge factor in inspiring a new generation of skiers of different ways to ski. And even people like Shane McConkey,
Yeah.
like when he side-slipped the spine on water skis. And people were like, well, that's not skiing. Like, sure
Look
it
at
is.
us
He's
now.
got skis on
Yeah.
your feet, and yeah, look at us now. So this ski is really cool. I think it's like, it definitely does those things. It's not a tremendously like easy powder ski. You know, there's not a ton of rocker here. There's not like much taper in the ski at all. So it's like not surprising that it's a pro skier's kind of like model.
Right.
Because you need to be pretty good.
Like that thing was like drawing board to reality. Like there's
Yeah.
nothing that it's based off of, really.
Yeah. And it's not going to do a single thing for you other than go straight.
Yeah.
Everything else you have to put the input in, but you know, it's light enough that you can flick it around, and it's that 30-meter turn radius. The other thing that happens with long turn radii is they don't feel catchy. So when you are trying to release the edge, despite it not having a ton of rocker, you can still do it, but it takes a little bit more input from the skier.
Yeah, I think that thing's cool, and I think that Cole Richardson is one of my favorite skiers to watch these days. Like for me, his style and
Great skier.
strength just jump off the screen.
You should have come to Whistler last summer.
I know, I would have liked that.
He was there the whole time. And then this ski that we're going to talk about next is very different.
Yeah, this is a Salomon QST X. I suppose it's fair to say this is new for 2025. Is that accurate?
Yeah.
Yeah. So new
It was
ski.
like early release.
I don't know. I just remember seeing it early, but
Yeah, it was around.
either way. This is Salomon's widest ski in its line now, so 116 underfoot, and built with a little bit lighter weight and longer turn shape, similar to the conversation we had with that Oblivion. We can talk about how a longer turn shape affects how a ski feels and how it differentiates itself from even other skis in Salomon's lineup, like the Blank. Which is, you know, certainly a wonderful powder ski, but has a much different character when it comes to turn shape and style than this QST X. From a construction standpoint, it is built with a blend of poplar and caruba in the wood core, so keeping it a little bit lighter. And then we get their CFX material through the center of the ski to give it some nice energy. And then cork in the tips and the tails. We also get these awesome recycled sidewalls, which I think is pretty fun. You know, we talk about base graphics a lot, and Salomon's usually at the forefront of that discussion. And now we get to have sidewall discussions, and just seeing this nice recycled material in here
Is cool.
looks pretty cool.
You get a lot of comments about it.
Yeah.
Like when you have a QSTX on your feet in the lift line, people are like, what's up with those sidewalls?
Yeah, or the Echo 106
Yeah.
also has this style of sidewall. And then there is just a little bit beefier of a sidewall material under here as well. So they do beef up the middle of the ski as well as that carbon and flax material. Stays pretty light. We're hovering right around 1900 grams here in the 184. So light enough at this width to still be really flickable and mobile and agile, but it does feel like there's some substance there on your feet. So
I agree.
It just feels smooth. It's not that it feels dense and powerful like an Unleashed or a Revolt, but it does feel smooth and very predictable. So there's not a whole lot of jumpiness out of this ski, which I think is a good thing. And then from a shape perspective, a little bit flatter than what we see in some other Salomon skis. Usually there's more drama in the rocker. This is a smoother and more consistent rocker profile in the shovel. Some nice positive camber underfoot, and then kind of that lower, slightly more directional rocker profile in the tail. And in this 184, we are at 25 meters in the turn radius. So it is on that longer style, which I think makes a lot of sense for what they're trying to do with this ski being lighter, more mobile, easier to throw sideways, really kind of hooking into and keying in on a slashy and drifty and surfy mentality.
Yeah. No, it's a really cool ski. It's like it complements the blank nicely because they are different enough that, they have like different characteristics. I love this thing.
Yeah.
Super fun to ski. I really like the blank too. I don't think we shy away from sharing that. I own a pair of this. It sits in the corner of our office, and I get to look at it every day. I think rightfully so. There have been a lot of questions about whether this ski was going to have the necessary stability for some people, given the kind of echo construction that they put into it. You know, if people had pre-existing knowledge of that ski and then the blank, you would be drawn to question, well, what's this going to feel like? And I think that's perfectly reasonable, and I think for some skiers, they might find a limit. You know, I think like if you're super, super aggressive and you've experienced the blank, and if you want it to feel exactly like that, it's not going to feel exactly like that, but I don't find a limit. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and I was very happy to spend a lot of time on it this winter, and like, for me, it's plenty of ski. Like, it's supportive. It feels relatively damp. I'm the first person to flex it.
Yeah.
It's like ASMR.
And it doesn't have a ton of that compression.
No.
Like there's good feedback.
Exactly.
To
It's
it.
like a nice like middle ground.
Yeah.
Because it's not stiff. Like you can manipulate it. You can play with it. You can butter it and do like fun things like that. But it does, to me at least, it feels pretty supportive. I also think it's unique because it's wide. It's 118 underfoot, and like I'm definitely gonna ski it in Stowe.
Right.
I did several times last year. I had a great time every time I did. And we also skied it in Alta, and it felt right at home there.
Yeah, it was an interesting discussion kind of going back and forth between this and a blank at Alta. And, you know, just I think that for me personally, in the interest of being more or being less tired for most of the day. Like this was
right. It was kind of nice.
Yeah, when you don't know where you're going, you're skiing at altitude. It's deep snow. You're not used to it. I think that's a huge advantage for skiers to not be tired out by that heavier blank. But yeah, no, I had zero bad times on that thing this year.
Yeah, same. I agree 100%. Next ski is the K2 Mindbender 116C. This is an awesome ski. It's, you know, I think it's one of the most well-rounded and probably one of the skis with the broadest appeal on this whole wall. I think K2 did a really, really, really good job building a resort powder ski that's going to appeal to a lot of different skiers. And I feel like I've seen a lot of different skiers, like from someone like Matt, like age 25, all the way up through like 70-year-old powder skiers that love skiing on this thing.
Yeah.
And I think that's really cool. Like, I think a lot of things up here, not that they're like polarizing, but they're more like specific in their intentions, where this is just like straightforward, objectively a really fun powder ski.
Yeah, and what I said about the 116, the ARV, sorry,
Yeah.
about that being a good foray into someone's first powder buying experience, like this is certainly another one on that list where
Yeah,
if
100,
you're looking
I agree,
for your first
100%.
powder ski,
Yep.
this will be a great option.
Yeah, or like if you don't know what powder ski to buy, get this one, which feels weird when you apply that to powder skis. But aspen wood core in this ski, and then we use that carbon spectral braid that we've seen from K2 for a while now. In Mindbenders, it's like it's kind of linear, I suppose, rather than Reckoners where it like tightens and then loosens.
Yeah.
So in Mindbenders, that carbon spectral braid is tightest up in the shovel and then loosest kind of through the tail. So it just means it's like more longitudinal, and that takes away torsional stiffness. It basically allows the tail of the ski. You probably can't see me doing it, but I can feel myself doing it. It allows the ski to twist and kind of articulate a little bit more. And then they also put some flax in this ski to quiet it down. Good vibration damping material, that flax. And it's 2,130 grams. This is the 182 centimeter length. And another ski with like a nice round flex pattern. Like, it's certainly not stiff. You know, I said that about Unleashed, that it had a round and consistent flex pattern. This is softer than Unleashed for sure, but it's not a noodle, you know, and I think that's nice, and I think that's contributing to what I feel like is pretty broad appeal. And then the shape is great. Nice amount of tip rocker up here, a little bit of early taper, but not like DPS taper, which I like. I like having surface area up here in a powder ski because it means your tips are gonna stay planing out. And then the tail, you know, it is a directional ski. We're not in a twin tip here, but there's a good amount of tail rocker back here. Not like crazy splay, but from length and just overall amount of rocker, there's a decent amount, and kind of a nice like sharp taper right at the end. I've always found this ski is just extremely intuitive, which doesn't happen that much for powder skis. I feel like often with powder skis, you have to like take a moment to figure out what the ski wants you to do. Like Candide, like that ski wants you to ski in a certain style.
Right.
Like it really does, where this is just like, you get on it and you're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go skiing now. And it just works really well. So I've had a blast on it in pretty deep snow. I also find that it's reliable when you're not in deep snow. If you hit something underneath, if you find yourself back on a cat track, something like that, it's, you know, its shape is pretty similar to the 106C, and you can kind of take that and use it to your advantage.
Yeah, it's a directional ski and it's going to turn pretty well.
And it's got carbon in it.
Yep.
Yeah, what's the turn radius in here? I bet it's probably going to say on the sticker that you have.
I got the sticker, 22.5.
Yeah, so like kind of nice middle of the road turn
Yeah.
radius. It's not like super short. It's not going to make you turn when you don't want to. It's not a 30-meter turn radius like this that you really have to like, you have to manipulate it and tell it what to do. Like it's just, I think it's a very, very well-rounded ski.
I know a lot of people kind of talk ill about K2s from a durability standpoint, but I had an instance this year where skiing in the woods and saw a huge pile of snow and smashed into it.
And it was a
And
stump.
it was a rock.
Oh, nice.
And you couldn't, like, the ski
Yeah.
was 100% fine.
I've found these like all the Mindbenders have been quite durable since their existence, and I think like they've done a really good job taking that accomplishment and then like reapplying it to Reckoners. Where now Reckoners, like from everything that I can see so far, are highly durable.
From my experience, this and the Blaze 114 are two excellent tree ski resort tree ski Eastern. You know, you have your occasional powder days, but not full time.
Yeah. Totally.
I feel like this K2 and that Blaze work really, really well
Yep.
in those situations. Like
Yep.
you do need more of a supportive tail and a little bit more grip out of the back.
Yeah.
This one, another pro model. This is a Sammy Carlson ski. This is the Armada Whitewalker 116. So this is part of their signature collection here.
Impressively light.
Super light, still built with that Karuba wood core. You know, you should flex that and then that 116 ARV kind of back to back. And
Well, this ski is very interesting because it's so stiff, like right here,
right,
but then like that's like very soft,
right. So when I do like the compression test, it still bends in the tips and tails,
just not in the
but
middle.
only in the tips and tails. Like you can
Yeah.
probably see it on camera where this central portion of the ski just stays perfectly
Yeah,
aligned.
Yeah.
Like it just moves towards you
yeah. It's
instead
very
of
interesting.
instead of curving.
Yeah,
So yeah, very similar construction. You'll probably notice the pin shape in the tips and in the tails as being standout features here. And really what that's letting you do is kind of more of a point and shoot style of skiing where you know, nothing's going to get caught up. It's just a much smoother initiation and completion, making kind of more round, more surfy, more smeary style of turns. It does have that smear tech like that 116 over there, but certainly has a different feel with that sharper tip and sharper tail. We talk about the narrower, when a tail gets narrower at the end, it serves like a rudder of a boat and just allows you to steer more easily and more playfully with the snow. So if you're working the tips and working the tails in deeper snow, you can really be more playful and just have better control over where the ski is going. So I think it's pretty interesting. 1,800 grams here on the scale, super light, and same dimensions. So it's 139, 116, 135, same as that ARV 116, and both have an 18-meter turn radius.
yeah, and then both like more symmetrical tip and tail rocker.
Yeah.
Not perfectly, but you know,
Yeah.
you can. The nod towards freestyle use is evident.
Yep, very, very evident. So yeah, we do have that nice tip rocker here, kind of a flatter profile underfoot. And I think that that works well with the stiffer flex, so it's not fighting against you. A more cambered ski with that stiff of a flex. It's definitely a thicker profile in the middle here. You don't want that working against you if you're trying to be more playful and creative. But yeah, like you said, Jeff, very symmetrical in terms of style in the tips and the tails. We also have a Sammy's mounting point as well as a factory mount point.
Is Sammy's further forward?
It is.
Yeah.
It is not true center, but it is further forward.
Yeah. And if you're familiar with how Sammy skis, it's like that's a perfect representation of that ski.
Yeah.
He's like very active in his skiing, like does a lot of movements and like dynamic things, and he needs his ski to be able to kind of work accordingly. And I think it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, no, I think it's pretty cool and definitely an interesting kind of alternative to that softer ARV.
Yeah. Skiers are a natural selection this year. There's been a lot of rumors about Sammy Carlson's involvement in that competition. Will we see him on a Whitewalker 116? Only time will tell. Next up is the DPS Lotus 117. You know, I think for a long time now, DPS has kind of been synonymous with powder skiing. Like, it's kind of how they got their start. They're based in Utah. A lot of people really swear by their skis for skiing powder. I do think that they're pretty unique for a few different reasons. And like, I, for one, have never particularly found them to work super well for me, which isn't terribly surprising. Like, I fall definitely more into the twin tip. Like, I'd have a lot more fun on the Whitewalker 116 in almost every powdered scenario than I would on this. But I think there's a lot of skiers out there that really, really like this stuff, and it makes sense why. When we were talking about like looking back up the slope and you see your turns coming down, like, this is fantastic. it's also pretty expensive.
Yeah, you're paying for that fantasticness in your S-shaped turns.
Yeah, so it's an ash wood core on the bottom.
Yeah.
It's a poplar wood core on the top, so they're kind of doing that double core thing that more and more companies are using now. And then we get 2 layers of, gosh, what I assume are still aerospace grade carbon.
Yeah, it's very high grade carbon.
Yeah, so that's really where the price is coming from. Full disclosure, I did write down all the prices of these skis, and then I forgot to bring. Did you notice?
Yeah, I was. Where's your board? Where's your whiteboard?
This one is $1,600. I believe it's $1,599. I might be $100
I think
off.
it's $1,699.
I think it's $1,599.
Okay.
But anyways, it's pretty expensive. It's about twice as much as anything else on this wall. And I'm not like disappointed that I forgot to bring the prices in, because for most of these skis, it's very consistent from like 700 to 850 range-ish. You know, with that, you get a lighter ski. This thing's really long. What length do we have
It's
here?
a big one, 190 something.
191, and
Yeah.
it's sub 2,000 grams. It's like 1,950 grams. So, you know, if you're looking for ways to justify the cost, I do think that's a way to justify the cost. Also, that carbon fiber that they use, in theory, is not going to degrade as fast as other manufacturers' use of carbon. So, in theory, day 450 on a Lotus 117 is going to feel just like day 1.
Yeah, and you're also paying for that handmade in the USA stamp on there as well. You know,
Yeah,
it's just
United States manufacturing
Yeah.
is expensive. Yeah. So really interesting ski. Under 2,000 grams, like we looked at. Another ski with like kind of middle of the road flex pattern, just a nice consistent round flex pattern. I don't know if you could, I bet you could get your compression.
little bit.
Yeah, a little bit, not a ton. I need to eat more.
You just need to be taller. I have
need
more
to eat
leverage.
More cheeseburgers. And then DPS shaping has always been really interesting. They all use a lot of tip rocker, so this one is no different. A lot of tip rocker up here, and kind of that classic DPS early taper. This ski has a decent amount of tail rocker, you know, kind of that similar flatter, not much splay, but decent length, and then a little bit more splay right at the end. Again, pretty long, aggressive early taper in the tail there. This one is a little different than some DPS because it is a 21 meter turn radius, but yeah, they're interesting. I think like they can be really good for some skiers, or they can be not very good at all for other skiers, and that just totally depends on your skiing style. If you want responsiveness, if you want more of a traditional rounder turn shape in deep snow, this is going to be fantastic. If you are slashy, smeary, straight down the fall line and then like blow up a pillow over there, you might find that these are like a little bit more reactive than you would want them to be. And that's kind of what I've always experienced on them, is with the aggressive amount of taper, they like engage before I'm ready to.
Well, it's taper combined with flex.
Yeah.
So that's what you're feeling, and that's what a lot of people feel on a lot of DPS skis, is they're aggressively tapered, but they're also stiff.
Yeah.
So you really get that.
Well, right.
Instant,
It's just like instant engagement,
energy.
instant like responsiveness,
Yeah.
which like I've said it several times before. I just like I can do it, and if I go to the mountain with that mindset of like, nope, we're like skiing very deliberately and like turn here, turn there, turn there, turn there, turn there, I can do that. I personally prefer to be a little bit looser and like make decisions on the fly.
Yeah.
For better or for worse.
Yeah. And if you're your weight and not my weight, the ski's going to talk back to you more.
Exactly.
Like I can push through the flex easier than you can.
Well, it's similar to like the differences that you and I feel on head cores.
Right.
Is like at my weight, they're just so reactive that I'm like, this is wild.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
great ski. It's just it's for a certain type of skier.
Yeah.
And like, I don't really know how to say it other than the fact that like you also probably have like a pretty healthy financial situation.
I guess. I mean, but like people in really healthy financial situations don't hem and haw over $300, $400 for skis.
They don't care.
They don't care.
Well, I don't see many like broke ski bums in their 20s going out and getting a Lotus 117.
Not at retail, no.
Yeah, you got to hook up.
Yeah. Now we got a Rossignol Sender-Free 118. Slightly different than what we had with the Black Ops 118 from years past, although when Jeff puts it on the scale, we'll see that the main similarity will continue through 2025. Just because they added air tip in this ski doesn't mean that it's any lighter. 2,454 grams here. I think it's the heaviest on the wall. If not, real darn close. The amazing thing is, other than it feeling smooth and powerful, it does not feel heavy or cumbersome.
No, I don't think so. To me, there is a noticeable difference between the 110 and its on-feel snow and the 118.
Yeah.
So like, and because they share the same name, I feel like that's worth bringing up. Like the Sender-Free 110 feels very good just about everywhere.
Yeah.
This ski does feel more cumbersome and more robust overall, which can be a benefit, but can also be a downside if you're looking for like slower speed performance and stuff like that.
Yeah. I really enjoyed this ski in busted up snow. Like this one was a standout for me on a snowy day where conditions were variable at best.
Yeah.
Just plowed right through.
Yeah.
That's what you're getting with that weight.
Totally.
But yeah, it's still built with a poplar wood core. We do get the air tip, so you can see your fingers behind it, but they still incorporate rubber in the tips and in the tails. That really helps to keep this ski being smooth and stable. But overall, just an extraordinarily damp ski, and we talk about that with Black Ops 98 feeling that way, and then the Sender-Free 110. Although there is a different energy to that 110, and this one just brings it right back down to earth.
Yeah.
And this ski feels extraordinarily planted on the snow. And at the same time, it's a pretty wide twin tip, so you still are able to get a lot of playfulness out of it. Really, really interesting. Flex-wise, it does have a more flexible tail. A lot of that is due to the curve that's built in, so you can get a lot of playfulness out of this tail. It's not an overly stiff ski. But the weight really is really the standout feature here. The shape is more mirrors what we see in that 110 with a decent amount of rocker, but not a ton. A good amount of camber underfoot. That's where you're seeing a lot of that energy come from. With a ski this heavy, they do need to kind of build that energy into it through the camber. And then kind of a symmetrical rocker profile out of the tail. So very much in the fat twin tip realm of skis. And a 25 meter turn radius here in the 186, 146, 118, 141. So that's notable for symmetry purposes, as there's only a 5 millimeter drop between the tip and the tail in terms of width. I think this thing is awesome. It's one of my top choices for if you're given the proper conditions, what ski would you want up here?
Yeah.
And I've just had really positive experiences in crud and chop and broken snow on this ski, that taking it one level deeper, and I'm still really, really sold on this ski.
Yeah.
I don't mind the weight. It just
that makes sense to me. Yeah. I would personally prefer to be on something slightly lighter.
Yeah.
Like the weight of the next ski that we're going to look at, I think, is quite a bit lighter.
Quite a bit lighter.
That turns into, I can use that to my advantage.
Right.
Where I certainly appreciate the capabilities of these skis, but I don't necessarily know that they're the best for me.
Yeah. No, I mean, it takes some work, but I also found that if you let the ski do the work, then you just kind of hang on. Yeah. And it is totally silent.
It is a let the ski do the work type of ski.
Yeah.
Yeah. I agree.
But yeah, fun one from Rossignol.
Yeah, and I like the kind of progression of the lines, bringing that into the sender free. Just got confusing with kind of like Black Ops 98 and then 118 and nothing else. I don't know. Next ski here is the Atomic Ben Chetler 120. I think it's fair to say that over the past decade, this has been one of the most successful powder skis across the board. It has a very strong following. Atomic has done very well with it. That's a big reason why the Bent collection is now huge.
Yep.
Like there's 5 different widths in the Bent collection. And if you get a chance to ski it, you'll probably realize why that is. I think it's very, very good. We've talked about some variety in different turn shapes over the last handful of skis. I actually feel like if you're going to point to a ski that can make all those different turn shapes really well, it's this one. I find that I can do those slashy, smeary, like the straight sideways style skiing, but you can also make the kind of like classic, just like porpoising, smaller turns, and it just opens it up to a huge audience. So it has been changed a little bit for 2025. Again, on that same trip to Utah last season, I got to talk to Chris Ben Chetler quite a bit about it. Another kind of path towards further environmental sustainability. They're just focusing on using wood and less epoxy. So we used to have wood and carbon and all sorts of stuff, and now it's basically just wood.
More wood.
More wood.
Yeah.
It's woodier. It also has that new Horizon tech, and differs than the Maverick 115 in the sense that that's in the tail as well. And I mentioned it back there, but the wood kind of extends further into the tip as well. So I think it gives this ski a touch more stability overall, but it's not like it completely changed the ski. They've always been very, very playful and super easy to flick around and very fun. I just find it's like more consistent, and then that turns into like a little bit more, like it just feels a touch more robust.
Yep.
Which I think is great. It's not stiff, it's not stiff by any means. It's maybe similar to the Whitewalker in the sense that it is stiffer underfoot with very flexy tips and tails. So kind of nice because that gives you some stability for landing and stuff like that. And the tips and tails allow you to do nose buttered 360s and kind of whatever you want to do. 1,825 grams. So we're 600 grams lighter than your Sender Free 118?
Yep.
So that's a huge difference, and it does really change the characteristic of the ski. This is intended to be playful. I think that's its whole point, is playfulness and just like fun factor. I think Chris Ben Chetler is the type of skier that likes to have a lot of fun, doesn't like to overthink things or like take things too seriously, and I think this is perfect. You can go out and hit a massive backcountry jump on it, and that's going to be pretty darn serious, but you can also just ski it in the resort and go kind of slow and have a really fun time.
Yeah, that's what I did on it, and I loved it.
Yeah.
Even in the 194.
Well, and I think that's a really, really good representation. Like, that's a really good example of, like, of course I would like it because it's a 120 underfoot twin tip. But the fact that you skied it several times and also really liked it, I think that's like just proving that kind of like broad appeal and the big audience. And that's why they've been so successful with it. Good amount of tip rocker, certainly not the most. I think that's like kind of interesting to look at. There are skis up here with way longer tip rocker, and then look at how much camber it has.
That's always been a defining characteristic of the 120 is the amount of camber underfoot and the engagement that skiers feel.
Gives it a lot of pop, a lot of energy, and that's where all those people that like to tell you that this is their favorite carving ski.
Right, that's why.
That's where it's coming from. There's camber, there's side cut, and it's like reasonably stiff through here. This is a 19-meter turn radius in the 184 that I've got here. And then there's a good amount of tail rocker, too. It's not perfectly symmetrical, but it's one of those skis that's a little bit closer to being symmetrical. And yeah, it's really good. There's a lot of really good skis up here, but I can't get past this one without just saying that objectively it's really good.
Yeah.
And like, it's no surprise that they've been quite successful with it, and it has such a strong following.
Yeah, even in a directional format.
100%.
The fact that the tail is not as stiff,
Right.
you know, kind of the knock on twin tips and powder is that the snow can kind of push down on the tail as you go through, and that's why you get those huge rooster tails. But because this is more flexible in nature, it doesn't feel like there's something holding you back.
No, I agree. Super fun.
Yeah, and again, kind of similar to the QST X, that's not too demanding. You know, if you're worried about that and you don't want to lug around a 2,500 gram ski all day.
Yeah, there's a bunch up here that, you know, ARV.
Yeah, they'll make your day better. Like,
Yeah.
that's the whole point.
Yeah.
You know, I could see someone running into problems, you know, a little bit after lunch on the
I probably
Sender Free
would.
118.
Like if I was doing like notch runs
Yeah.
at Stowe all day on a Sender Free 118, I'd probably make it to 12:30.
Yeah.
I'd have a great time. I'd probably ski really fast and stuff.
Yeah, I'll give that to you.
I thought you were just doing everything on your own.
Well, I didn't hit the button right, unfortunately.
I thought you were giving me a break.
Yeah, this is another one that is, it's on the heavier side, but there's also, I don't know, I don't want to say that the Revolt 121 doesn't have a resort mentality.
I kind of think it does.
Yeah, but you sure see it more in big mountain areas.
Well, you like see it in ski movies.
Yeah, that's the whole point of this.
That's where I
thing.
see
Right.
it the most is
Yeah.
in ski movies.
It's
You don't see it out in the wild too often.
not a whole lot in the wild. But if you do get a Revolt 121, we kind of always talk about it as being the last powder ski you'll ever need. Like, there's no real need to
Sure.
go beyond Revolt 121. 2,300 grams on the scale, so there is some heft to it. This accomplishes its weight similar to the Revolt 114 in that it's just a poplar wood core. They just play around with the thickness and thinness in the milling process in order to make it so. So this does have thicker core profile going through the tips and tails. It really doesn't taper a whole lot from the middle, whereas your Revolt 114 is just, it's thicker overall. But that leads to the weight. There's nothing else going on in the construction. They get the performance out of this based on the shape and profile. And there's just a wild amount of splay here in the tips. You know, they just keep bending to the point where they're almost like pointing
Towards
up.
me, yeah.
Yeah, it's really interesting how they are the most dramatic around here. Maybe that K2, the KF over there.
That's probably the closest, yeah. But it's not quite as abrupt. It's like more gradual.
Yeah, this one is more abrupt. And then some positive camber underfoot, not a lot. And then just a monster amount of tail rocker as well. Just super long, you know, not as much splay as we see, but a very, very dramatic amount of tail taper. And we see this overall shape used in the Revolt 104, where we're seeing kind of a more dramatic drop in tip width to tail width versus more symmetrical shapes like the Sender Free 118 or which one else over there? Yep, the KF again. So those are differences there where we're dealing with a narrower and more mobile tail that's going to allow it to be more rudder-like, similar to Sammy's ski here. But really, really interesting. Again, you're just dealing with probably the most dramatic shape here on the wall and supreme flotation as a result. But yeah, you just see these in ski movies on the feet of pro skiers who are doing big Alaskan lines, and then it makes sense.
Yep.
Like, this is why you get a Revolt 121.
Yeah, shout out to Tanner Rainville.
Right. Just super playful and very creative skiers using these in their intended zones. So
Your former athlete.
He was an athlete before I ever saw him.
Well, technically, you were his coach,
Yeah, that is technically correct.
and now he's doing like 100-foot 360s in the backcountry on his Revolt 121s.
Yeah,
All thanks to you.
yeah.
And
down
Volkl's manufacturing.
Yeah.
Really, Tanner doesn't get any credit at
No.
all. I'm just kidding. If Tanner's watching, don't get mad at me.
But you just see this ski being used in, you get brought up to the top of a mountain on a snowmobile or a helicopter or a snowcat.
Correct.
It's less often seen on a chairlift.
Yep.
Maybe a tram. You'll
Yep.
see something like this, but not a whole lot dangling off chairlifts.
Can't recall ever seeing one on a chairlift at Stowe.
Right. Even when we had it in our ski test, we would just take the gondola.
I think I made Harrison ski it one year. Do you want to hand me that one and then go get the one
Yeah.
I left over there? I wanted to include this ski. This is the Candide AK121. Some of you might know that we had like an interesting kind of development or relationship. I don't know. We wanted to sell Candide skis and then unfortunately never really received our shipment, and not much has really happened with it since then. The skis still exist. You don't see them very often. Right now, this ski is showing sold out on the Candide website, but it's just so unique that I kind of wanted to bring it up here just because I think it's a great way to end the conversation. Poplar and Paulownia wood core in this ski. So if you're familiar with Candide, you'll know that Candide is pretty lightweight himself. So he doesn't need his ski to be like crazy heavy or stiff or anything like that. You want to throw that one on the scale for me? It's going to be weird with the
We will minus 200 grams.
with the binding plate. But another thing that like is really interesting about this ski is, and we've had this conversation before, so 2,320 minus 200, so 2,120, which isn't that heavy for a ski this big.
Yeah.
It's like huge. It's also like not stiff, nice round, playful flex pattern. But anyways, I got distracted there. But what I was going to say, and we've had this conversation before, is Candide is known for skiing very, very fast. You know, you see videos of him just like absolutely charging. And a lot of people just had the opinion that this was going to be like a super stable, powerful ski. And it's basically the opposite. Not because the ski itself is not like built to be stable, but when we talk about turn shapes and like straight sideways, there's no camber.
Yeah.
It's just all rocker. It's 100% rocker. Maybe it's like flat for a section right there. But it is like the most swivelly ski, especially in this width range that I've ever skied. And it doesn't really have down the fall line longitudinal stability. The reason that Candide does those things on it is because he's the best skier like ever, or at least like the most balanced skier ever. You could probably at least give him that superlative. So for him, having this shape that is just like 100% easy to manipulate, that works as a benefit to him because he can like make tiny speed checks anywhere he needs to, or like throw the skis sideways for just a split second to like dump enough speed. Like it's really hard to like describe the intricacies and the nuances of Candide skiing, but this for him is a tool. When you put Bob on it, he just spins around.
It was very frustrating.
Right?
Yeah.
Like it's very unique.
Yeah,
like,
I couldn't buy a turn on that thing.
yeah, there's no responsiveness to it. So if you don't already have like kind of at least like the pre-existing mindset of what you want to be doing, you're just gonna be confused.
Yeah.
So you can't buy it from us. I don't know where you can buy it.
No, but it's interesting to see like what an athlete design ski entails, and it's not always what you should get. You know, whether it's Sammys or Carls or Candides or Coles. You know, there's something about an athlete inspiring or designing a ski that doesn't line up well with the general public, and that's for a good reason.
Yeah. So, anyways, poplar, Polonia, some fiberglass, some carbon. A lot of rocker.
A lot of rocker. Yeah, super interesting skiing a fully rockered twin tip
Yeah.
that's center mounted.
And then yeah, the one that I've never skied. I don't think you've ever skied. I don't know anything about it.
Well, I'll tell you what I've learned.
Perfect.
It's a poplar wood core.
Thank you.
It's a mono ski.
Thank you.
It's a faction Le Mono.
Does it have a turn radius?
24-meter turn radius.
Perfect.
188 millimeters underfoot.
Okay.
My favorite part is that it has 3 mount points.
Wow.
It has a classic, progressive, and new school mount point.
Sick.
So you can really fine-tune your level of progression.
And how wide is it?
188.
Now, I'm not an engineer or a fabricator, but can somebody just go build a 190 brake for something? Because then you could buy 2 mono skis and ski them on each feet.
Sure. Yeah, you could. Or you could leash.
I don't want two.
You don't want
I
two
don't
of
want
these
2
flopping
mono
around?
skis leashed to my body.
How about a long leash, and then they'll be at least
No.
20 yards down the hill?
Nope.
Okay.
I want somebody to custom fabricate me. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that like Royal Family brakes would be the easiest. They're also really easy to find. They're all over the place.
Yeah.
Go into any ski shop and just ask for a pair of Royal Family brakes. If you fabricate 190 millimeter brakes, I will buy 2 faction Le Mono skis and go skiing.
I mean, like, so basically you have to cut a brake off so that the 2 bindings that you have, one brake of
On each side.
hangs off.
Correct.
And
Mounting it the way that's intended to be mounted, not the way that I'm trying to mount it.
Correct.
Yes.
And I still have a hard time thinking that that would stop this thing.
I think like the idea with mono skis is like if it's coming off, then something has gone wrong. When's the last time you saw somebody with
3,500 grams.
released from their mono ski?
I don't know. There's a gentleman at Stowe this past year on a mono ski. I don't know if you saw him, but
I think I did.
it was
Couple
pretty
times.
cool.
Yeah. So anyways, custom fabricate me a 190 millimeter brake.
And you're in.
I'm sure.
Okay.
Yeah. Anyways, kind of silly ending on the faction Le Mono, but I thought it was fun. And that was a really interesting conversation, I think.
Yeah, lots of variances in shapes and styles,
Yeah.
and again, a specific set of skis for
Yeah.
a smaller group of skiers.
Yeah, and once again, apologies if a ski that you were looking for wasn't up here, but don't hesitate to ask us a question about it because chances are we have an opinion about it.
Yep.
So that's it for now. We got more. We got more to do. There's like touring skis and some park skis and some other stuff.
Sweet.
So there'll be more comparisons. Until then, some people might be on snow.
Yeah. I mean, it's early November.
If you're on snow, we will be living vicariously through you while we do our snow dances here in Vermont, and we will talk to you soon.
Bye.